Hello, my friends. Welcome to Luna English Podcast. This is Luna. Today, I've been thinking about something that many of us struggle with, but don't always see clearly. It's called overthinking. We often say we're just being careful or that we're trying to be responsible. But sometimes, what we call thinking things through is actually something else. Overthinking isn't about being smart or prepared. It's a mental habit that tries to protect us from uncomfortable feelings, fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of making the wrong choice. It's the mind's way of staying busy so we don't have to feel vulnerable. But here's the problem. Instead of helping us, overthinking often keeps us stuck. It stops us from moving forward. It makes simple choices feel heavy and complicated, and it can drain our energy before we even take the first step. In this episode, I want to look deeply at what overthinking really is, how to notice when it's happening, and how to break free from it. Because once you understand that it's not a sign of being careful, but a way your mind avoids discomfort, you can start responding to it differently. And that small shift can change how you make decisions, how you live your days, and how you grow. How can you tell the difference between being careful and overthinking? Careful thinking is thoughtful and purposeful. It helps you understand a situation, weigh your options, and make a choice. Overthinking, on the other hand, doesn't lead to a decision. It goes in circles. You replay the same thoughts again and again, but nothing changes. You imagine every possible outcome, but you don't move forward. You may even feel more confused the longer you think. That's because the goal of overthinking isn't to solve a problem. It's to avoid a feeling. Your mind tries to protect you from regret or judgment by never letting you act. So you stay in the safe space of thinking, but life doesn't move. True carefulness ends with action. Overthinking never does. It's like sitting in a parked car with the engine running. Lots of noise, but no movement. If you notice that you're not making decisions, that you're still thinking after hours or days without clarity, that's a strong sign you're overthinking, not being careful. Once you see this difference, you can start choosing action over endless thought. Why do we fall into overthinking in the first place? The truth is, it's usually not because we're lazy or weak. It's because we're human. Overthinking is often a defense mechanism. It tries to protect us from feelings we don't want to face. When we fear failure, our mind tells us to think more before acting, as if enough thinking could guarantee success. When we fear being judged, we try to plan every detail to avoid mistakes. When we fear regret, we imagine every possible outcome, hoping to find the perfect one. But that perfect option doesn't exist, so we keep spinning. Overthinking is the mind's attempt to feel safe, but it ends up doing the opposite. It keeps us stuck, small and unsure. Understanding this is powerful. It helps you stop blaming yourself and start seeing overthinking as something you can change. It's not part of who you are. It's a habit your mind uses to protect you, and habits can be unlearned. The more you understand what overthinking is trying to do for you, the easier it becomes to let go of it and choose a different way. What does overthinking really do to your life? At first, it might seem harmless, just extra thinking. But over time, it carries a heavy cost. Overthinking steals your time. Hours pass, and you're still stuck on the same decision. It drains your energy. Your brain feels tired even though nothing has changed. It builds stress in your body, tense shoulders, tight chest, headaches. And maybe the worst part, it slowly kills your confidence. Every time you avoid action, you teach yourself that you can't trust your own choices. You start doubting your judgment. You rely more on thinking and less on doing. Life becomes smaller. Opportunities pass by because you're still deciding if you're ready. Overthinking also makes problems feel bigger than they are. A small choice becomes a huge fear. A simple mistake becomes a disaster in your mind, and because you don't act, you never discover that most fears are smaller than they seem. Understanding this cost is important. It shows you that overthinking is not harmless. It's something worth working on because your time, your energy, and your confidence are too valuable to waste. What does overthinking look like inside your head? One clear sign is repetitive thoughts. The same ideas come back again and again, even though they don't bring new solutions. You might replay a past conversation hundreds of times or imagine the future in dozens of ways, but you don't feel closer to clarity. Another sign is over-analyzing simple decisions. Choosing what to say, what to wear, or when to start something can feel like solving a huge puzzle. Your thoughts jump from one worry to another. What if this happens? What if that goes wrong? Without ever landing on action. Sometimes, your thinking even becomes imaginary conversations or long what-if stories that never end. This mental noise is exhausting. It makes it hard to focus on the present. It makes even small decisions feel heavy. When you notice your thoughts looping without progress, that's not careful thinking anymore. That's overthinking, and simply naming it, "I'm overthinking now," is a powerful first step to regaining control. How does overthinking show up in your body? Our minds and bodies are deeply connected, so mental tension often becomes physical. You might feel tightness in your chest or shoulders. Your stomach might feel unsettled. Your breathing might become shallow without you noticing. Sometimes your heart beats faster, even though you're just sitting still. These physical signs are important signals. They tell you that your body is stuck in a state of worry or anticipation. Overthinking keeps your nervous system alert, as if danger is coming, even when nothing is happening. And when this tension builds up, it becomes harder to think clearly. You feel tired, restless, or even frozen. This is why breaking the cycle often starts with the body, not the mind. A simple walk, slow breathing, or stretching your muscles can shift your state and quiet your thoughts. If you notice your body feeling tense for no clear reason, pause and ask yourself if overthinking might be the cause. Often, it is. Why is overthinking so hard to stop? Because it gives us the illusion of control. It makes us feel like we're doing something important, like we're preparing, planning, and protecting ourselves. But thinking is not the same as acting. You can't think your way out of every fear. You can't predict every outcome, and you can't plan a perfect future. Overthinking keeps you in a safe space where you don't have to risk failure, but it also keeps you from success. It feels like control, but it's actually avoidance. Once you understand this, you can begin to let go. You can remind yourself that clarity doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from doing something, learning from it, and adjusting. Real control doesn't happen in your mind. It happens when you take steps, even small ones, in the real world. What's the biggest difference between overthinking and real problem solving? Action. Overthinking stays in the head. Real problem solving leads to movement. You can spend hours thinking about starting a project, but nothing changes until you begin. You can analyze every possible outcome of a conversation, but the truth only appears when you speak. Thinking has value, but only when it ends with a choice. Without action, thinking becomes a trap. The more you think, the harder it is to act. The harder it is to act, the more you think. This cycle can go on for days, months, even years. The way out is to shift your focus from what if to what now. Instead of waiting for perfect certainty, ask yourself, what small action can I take today? Often, the first step doesn't have to be big, it just has to happen. And once you take it, your thinking becomes clearer, not before. How can you stop thinking forever and finally act? One simple but powerful method is setting a time limit for your thinking. Decide how long you'll think about a choice, maybe 10 minutes, maybe one day, and then commit to deciding when that time ends. This gives your thoughts structure. It keeps them from wandering endlessly. It also builds trust in yourself. When you know you'll act after a set time, you feel more focused while thinking. You look for useful thoughts, not just any thoughts. This technique is especially helpful for small or medium decisions where overthinking often sneaks in. You don't need perfect certainty to act. You just need enough clarity to move forward. And the truth is, you can always adjust later. Decisions are rarely final. The more you practice making choices after a time limit, the easier it becomes to think less and live more. Why does movement help stop overthinking? Because overthinking isn't only in your head, it lives in your body too. When you move, you shift your physical state, and your mental state follows. A short walk, stretching, or even cleaning your space can interrupt looping thoughts. It reminds your body that you're not stuck. It gives your mind space to reset. Movement also releases tension that builds up from overthinking. It helps you breathe deeper and think more clearly. Often, answers that felt impossible while sitting still become obvious once you move. So the next time your thoughts spiral, don't try to think harder. Stand up, move, do something physical, even for a few minutes. It's not a waste of time, it's a tool to help your mind find clarity and balance again. One of the most powerful ways to break overthinking is to ask yourself a simple question. Is this thought useful? Notice, the question isn't, is it true? Many thoughts are true but not helpful. Thinking, I might fail, might be true, but it doesn't help you act. Thinking people might judge me might be true, but it doesn't move you forward. A useful thought leads to action. It gives you direction. It helps you prepare or decide. If a thought doesn't do that, you can choose to let it go. This is not about ignoring reality. It's about focusing your attention on what supports your growth, not what feeds your fear. Each time you catch yourself stuck in a thought, pause and ask, is this helping me? If not, you have the power to shift your focus to something that does. Why do we overthink so much before acting? Often it's because we're chasing perfection. We want the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect answer. But perfection doesn't exist. It's just another way the mind avoids risk. Progress, on the other hand, is real. It happens in small steps, in imperfect actions, in learning as you go. When you focus on progress, overthinking loses power. You don't need to know everything before you start. You just need to begin. And with each small action, you build confidence. You prove to yourself that mistakes aren't the end. They're part of the path. So the next time you're stuck in your head, remind yourself, you don't need perfect, you just need possible. And possible begins with one small step. How can you stop doubting every choice you make? By building trust in your ability to decide. Overthinking often comes from fear of making the wrong choice. But the truth is, no one gets every decision right. What matters is your ability to adapt. Each time you make a choice and learn from it, you teach yourself that you can handle outcomes, even unexpected ones. Start with small decisions. Make them quickly. Notice that the world doesn't fall apart. Notice that you can adjust if needed. Over time, your confidence grows. You stop needing perfect certainty before you act. You begin to trust that action itself teaches you what you need to know. And with that trust, overthinking loses its grip. How do you make this shift last? By turning it into a daily practice. Overthinking is a habit, and habits change with small, repeated actions. Set short thinking limits for small decisions each day. Practice asking if a thought is useful. Add small moments of movement when your mind spirals. Reflect in the evening on where you overthought and where you acted. Celebrate the times you chose action over endless thinking. These small practices build new patterns in your mind. And with time, thinking becomes a tool, not a trap. You think enough to act, then you act, and life moves forward. What does life feel like without overthinking? It feels lighter. Decisions feel simpler. Your energy goes into living, not looping. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You spend less time worrying about what might go wrong and more time discovering what can go right. Challenges still come, but you face them with action, not endless analysis. And you learn that clarity doesn't come before movement, it comes from it. Overthinking isn't a part of who you are. It's just a habit, and like any habit, it can change. Step by step, choice by choice, you can build a calmer mind and a more active life. You can think clearly and still act bravely. And when you do, you'll find freedom on the other side of your thoughts.